Good afternoon and welcome to the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor. Ms. Axelson, can you please take roll?
Assembly members Anderson, Carter, present. Cole, here. Hardy, here. Howdicke, here. Kasama, here. Miller, here. Monroe Moreno, here. O'Neill, Roth, here. Torres Fawcett, here. Yeager, here. Urick, here. Chair Marzola.
Here, please mark Assembly Member O'Neill absent excused. Welcome everyone here in Carson City. Anyone over teleconference in Las Vegas, anyone listening over the internet. Today we will hear three bills: Assembly Bill 38, Assembly Bill 163, and Assembly Bill 196. Before we get started, I do have a few housekeeping announcements. Members of the public may provide testimony in various ways, all of which is listed in the agenda. When testifying, please turn the microphone on to speak and off to listen. Committee information is available on the legislature's website. You may also watch our meeting through the legislature's YouTube channel. We ask that public comment be kept to 2 minutes so that everyone can be accommodated. I expect courtesy and respect in all our interactions, even if we may not agree. And finally, if you can please silence all of your electronic devices, especially your cell phones. With that, we will move to our first agenda item. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 38. This measure revises various provisions relating to housing. Thank you for being with us today. Please remember to introduce yourself, state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, members of the committee. For the record, Steve Acroth, Administrator of the Nevada Housing Division. That's STEVE-AICHROTH. And with me today is Christine Hess, our Chief Financial Officer, and we will be presenting on behalf of the Housing Division, AB 38. I want to thank the committee for allowing this indulgence to go through this process. So, trying to figure out how to work my slideshow here. There we go. So we're the Nevada Housing Division, and in 2017, the legislature was provided us the ability to merge with the Manufactured Housing Division, so thank you very much. That's been a very good marriage. We have oversight over manufactured housing in addition to other things that we do that many of you are familiar with. So AB 38 is primarily a cleanup bill over 3 statutes in manufactured housing, 489, 118B, and 461A. And you'll see it's a fairly lengthy bill. Most of it is conforming language. You'll see a lot of additions of things like manufactured structures, things of that ilk, factory-built housing. That's most of it, and I'll go over this in a little bit more detail when we hear shortly. So in this, sections 1 through 9, 12 through 35, and 39 basically are conforming language. Primarily regarding the structures that are included. These were created or modified in the past, and most of what you see there as additions were omitted when they were modified. So that's just the cleanup that you see. Sections 12, 13, 32, and 39 also provide additional clarifying language for other purposes. I want to focus on sections 10 and 11. We informally call this our recovery fund modification. Basically, there appears to me to be a disconnect between the statutes of 489, 4971, and 489, 4975. So all our licensees effectively pay into the recovery fund. But in my reading of 489, 4975, only a purchaser of a home is eligible for those recovery funds. So this cleans that up a little bit. So if somebody is wronged by a licensee in the repair of their homes, as an example, they potentially now are eligible for the recovery fund funds. Section 36 has to do, and this is the bill as introduced, has to do with access to lots in a manufactured home community. Section 37 has to do with some landlord responsibilities. Section 38 has to do with some lot maintenance. Oh, there we go. Section 40 has to do with the notification of division, and I've gone through those very, very rapidly because there is a friendly amendment that will cover that, and when we get to that point, with the chair's permission, we'll have somebody speak to that. So that's the bill very, very rapidly. We have a potential, a proposed amendment, and that's in the exhibits, for a proposed amendment, adding a couple of things that the division would like to deal with. And if you look at that proposed amendments in the exhibits, you'll see green type. And those are the proposed division amendments to the original submission of AB 38. And these really concern two specific items. One is the removal of travel trailers from statute, and the second is the retaining the confidentiality of a complainant. So in section 1 on the proposed amendment, it indicates that the division has oversight over the manufacture of travel trailers. And to be very, very candid, I don't understand why it's there, and it's been there for a long time. We know people do reside in travel trailers. We also know that folks reside in Class A, B, and C motorhomes, fifth wheels, tent trailers, boats. If they need to put a shelter over their head, they're going to find a place to do that. So why are we not providing oversight to those vehicles? Also, why specifically travel trailers? And the safety of the travel trailers is overseen currently, and we would hope to be continued by the Federal Highway Traffic Safety Administration. So that's all the lighting, the brakes, the tires, the load, the carrying capacity, and a compliant trailer, it's going to have a label installed that it meets all those federal standards. The travel trailer industry and the RV industry in general is governed by the RVIA, the RV Industry Association, which has a standards department which promotes the enhancement of safety by monitoring the standards of the board of directors for the construction of those RVs. And should the manufacturer meet those standards, they'll be able to display a seal on the RV, and that seal certifies that the RV complies with RV standards adopted by the association and is subject to regular periodic compliance audits by inspectors who monitor thousands of requirements impacting the electrical, the plumbing, the heating, fire, and life safety systems in RVs. So with the DMV handling the titling, the other agencies that I just mentioned overseeing the safety and compliance of travel trailers, we feel our involvement in any way, shape, or form is duplicative of those functions and really out of the scope of the division. The second amendment in the proposed, or the second part of the proposed amendment in green, it has to do with section 8.1, and that has to do with protecting a complainant confidentiality when a complainant makes a complaint to the division regarding a licensee, and with the intent of protecting that complainant from retaliation. So historically, we've withheld information from requesters in the past, and we've done so using a variety of privileges. And so in order to make it clear that investigation and complaints are confidential, a statute is really necessary. And the language that's pulled in 8.1 comes from Title 54, the professional licensing bodies who conduct investigations into licensees, allowing those investigations the confidentiality. There are other provisions in other titles with similar language regarding investigations and complaints, rendering them confidential. So that was the proposal from the division. And sorry, I didn't move my display up fast enough. And it looks like before I turn it over to or ask the chair's discretion in going to the friendly amendment. Do you have something to add, Ms. Hess?
Thank you, Chair, Committee, Christine Hess for the record. Administrator, I think we wanted to address a couple of items that were left out of our proposed conceptual amendment, that we've had some conversations. And so I'll at least start on one of them. On Section 9, if you look at, as the bill was introduced, Section 9, page 8, we'd just like to remove the word manufactured building from that section. So as Administrator Acroft noted, this really was a cleanup, and LCB provided manufactured building throughout to align it with with NRS 461 as well, and the activities of the division. But in Section 9, it had unintended consequences, and it was not our intent to usurp the local government jurisdiction over those items. So we totally agree with that. That was brought to us by a local jurisdiction, the City of Henderson, and it was just an oversight on our part and not an intent to change that language. Additionally, Sections 10 and 11, Administrator, if you want to take those ones.
Steve Acroft for the record. Actually, it's Sections 12 and 13, where there's wording that has contract for sale added, and we are actually, we heard from industry, and so we are proposing to remove that contract for sale language. So thank you. It's always good to have somebody else up here to backstop you when you forget to mention something. And with that, I don't know, Chair, if you wanted us to field questions as is, or if you'd like to hear from the friendly amendment.
If we can hear from the friendly amendment first before we take questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Howdeggy, members Mackenzie Warren Kay, WARRENKAY with Brownstein, on behalf of the Manufactured Home Community Owners Association. I'll start by saying that we're happy in the marriage. We didn't have much say in the matter, but we work really well with the Housing Division. They obviously oversee manufactured housing. The work on this bill started in the interim, well before session, and we were happy to be able to reach an agreement to produce this friendly amendment. I believe it's posted on Nellis. Thank you, Chair, to your staff. Copies have also been provided to you members, and me and my team have tried to get with as many of you as possible to explain what we're trying to accomplish in the friendly amendment. So we can start with Section 36, which you'll see we have agreed to strike. This has to do with landlord inspections on lots. And just the brief background, this language was lifted from 118A, which governs apartments. We are in 118B. Manufactured homes and apartments are very different, and so we propose that it be removed. We'll continue to work with the division in the interim if we still need to revisit this, but that will be stricken. Section 37, I'll call this the customer service aspect of the bill. So the green language is what's new, the association's addition. So there's already a requirement that a landlord disclose to the tenant an email address, or sorry, a name and address. Email address was being added. We just wanted the caveat if available. In some of our smaller and more rural parks, they don't use email, so we wanted to make sure we would be in compliance. Same note on sub B. And then the blue language, this is mandating office hours for those parks with 75 lots or more to make sure there's a manager in the office for at least 8 hours a week to be able to interface with the tenant. So that's why we're calling it the customer service aspect. Section 38, this has to do with a tenant's maintenance of their lawns. A landlord may require this, and the division had a desire to impose a 30-day written notice should the tenant have to take care of weeds or the lawn, and they would be paying for that ultimately. We agreed, but wanted to add the language that if the rental agreement or the lease agreed upon something different, that lease could control. Section 39, this is just a conforming change, so this strikes the reference to Section 36 since it's being removed. And finally, Section 40. So this is a desire to track the parks if they're sold or transferred. There will be a report being made to the division alerting them of the transfer. Initially, the bill proposed that this obligation be on the seller. We propose this should really be on the buyer, so the new owner that will be interfacing with the division, and that change is reflected there. Thank you very much. And I would just quickly put on the record, Chair, that the additional amendments that were submitted by the division outside of this friendly amendment are friendly to us. We had time to download ahead of the hearing, and the association has no issues with those. Thank you.
Steve Acroft, for the record, that concludes our presentation. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for your presentation. Committee members, are there any questions? We will start with Assemblymember Kasama.
Thank you, Chair. Like you said, cleanup work and cleanup language. On the friendly amendment, Section 37, Section 1A, I've just learned from experience, it seems like it's easier if you just have one point of contact. And so I was noticing here you had name, address, and telephone number of the owner and manager or assistant manager. I just thought for clarity it might be and telephone number of the owner or their representative. So we're not doing 2 or 3, and it just, because you could have a designated representative. So that was my recommendation, just the owner or their representative, and then it's one person, one phone number, one address, one electronic email if available.
That's fine. Steve Acroft, for the record, great suggestion, and we will work with Mackenzie to amend that and get that in there. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Assemblymember Cole.
Hello. So my question is on Section 40 when we're talking about the sale of the park. And my thought is much like the Division of Water Resources here, when they do a conveyance and a report of that change of ownership, they require a chain of title. So I'm just wondering if maybe with that park change of ownership, there would be some proof. Because I think there's bad actors in the world that might send you a notice that, hey, I own this park now. And they don't.
Steve Acroft, for the record, we can work on potential language to that effect, I would think.
Chair, through you into the Assemblymember Cole, Mackenzie Warren Kay.
You can go direct.
Thank you. So we had questions about the form because you can see the language is broad. It's the form prescribed by the division. And in our conversations, we were given assurances that whatever form was decided on and whatever the requirements would be, that it wouldn't go beyond the scope. But I think maybe discussing the title issue, maybe even outside of the bill, and addressing it through the form or through reg, may be a possibility. But we'd absolutely be open to that and understand just the checks and balances, why we would want to require chain of title here. Thank you.
Vice Chair Howdigi.
Thank you. And just a couple quick questions. The first one was under the transfer and sale of the parks. I know that originally in the bill, it was the responsibility of the seller, transferor, and now it's the buyer. Does the transfer of parks not go through an escrow company or an escrow where a neutral third party could be handling the responsibility of notifying the division of the sale?
Steve Acroft, for the record. So that's a good question. I would think that yes, that does in fact occur. I can't speak to that. I can tell you that sometimes, we don't know the exact ecosystem and all the transactions that are happening in it. So there are times where when we do our annual training for park managers and things of that nature, we find out that's when the park's been sold. So that's what we're trying to clean up here, is to give the division the notification that, in fact, when the park is sold, we are given notification. So I'm not quite sure, and this kind of goes back to the previous question on how we would incorporate that, but certainly it could be done in some way, shape, or form. I'm not
And
just
if I
quite
could, Madam Chair,
sure.
a follow-up, and I think of like just the sale of real property, right? Whether it's a commercial property or residential property, there's an escrow company who's responsible for notifying Clark County where they need to send property taxes to. So there's usually somebody responsible for doing that, and I would think that that would probably be the best entity for notifying the housing division of a change of sale, because they're probably notifying other, right? If there's a loan, they're probably notifying the mortgagor, they're notifying Clark County of where they need to send property tax billing forms to. So just a recommendation. And then I was writing when you were talking about the deletion of section 36. I know you compared it to NRS 118. So could you just go through that again, on why the deletion of section 36? Because I missed it as I was writing.
Mackenzie Warren Kay, thank you, Vice Chair, for the question. So this arose out of a situation happening from one park. Not a member, it doesn't matter. The role of the association is to really provide the industry standard and make sure that best practices are being spread far and wide. So I think it's more in the execution. So in a manufactured housing community, the lots are owned by the park. So the premise of having to seek a 24-hour advance notice to step on to something that you own that is decidedly different as opposed to an apartment where you are walking into someone's home and making the inspection, I think the division saw the concern with the association and our commitment to getting the word out that inspections need to be done professionally, preferably when the sun is up, not late at night, where people are aware that someone may be stepping onto their lot to make sure they're adhering to the lease. And really just from a practical standpoint, when you live in a mobile home community, these inspections are just they're part of the way of life there because of the interplay of the lot being owned by the park and then you as the tenant owning your home. And so we wanted to be given the opportunity to educate and see if we can't solve the issue without lifting something from a chapter that is just radically different from 118B. And the division agreed, and all these great suggestions we'll take up. And if I may, Vice Chair, on your question about the report, the division should be hearing about this sooner. So to the extent that we can alert members, hey, if you're thinking of selling, or if it's a generational park and the son doesn't want to take it over, let's have the conversation going sooner rather than later so the division knows who they'll be interfacing with. So we'll do our part there. I hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. Thank you for the great presentation. We will move to testimony and support. I'll give you guys a second. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 38? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas? Oh. That's okay. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and Assemblymember Howdegi, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Mindy Elliott with the Flint Judici Government Affairs, today representing the Nevada Housing Coalition, and we are in full support of this measure, and we appreciate all the camaraderie. I guess marriage is, and let's hope we don't have a divorce at the end of the session. But for now, we are in full support, and we thank you very much for your time.
We'll have to choose another word. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 38? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 38, please press star 9 to join the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 38. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. For the record, David Dazlich with McDonald Carano, last name spelled D-A-Z-L-I-C-H. Here today representing the Nevada Housing Alliance, the manufactured trade association that undertakes the manufacture and sale of these homes. As the division mentioned earlier, as introduced, we did have concerns about the contract language in section 12 and 13. We would absolutely like to thank the division for the meetings that they've held to address these concerns, and we anticipate with the forthcoming amendments that our concerns will be addressed. So we just wanted to get that on the record as introduced. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 38? I don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 38, please press star 9 to join the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Nicole Rourke, Nicolerourke, representing the City of Henderson. Just here to thank the Housing Division for working with us on Section 9 and realizing it was an oversight to ensure that the local jurisdictions still have authority over the building codes that would govern and regulate manufactured buildings. So thank you.
Thank you. God bless you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 38? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to provide testimony in neutral for Assembly Bill 38, please press star 9 now to join the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Would you like to give any final remarks?
Thank you, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. Just want to thank you for hearing the bill and providing additional input that I think will benefit the residents of Nevada. So just want to thank you.
Thank you for being with us today. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 38. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 163. This measure enters into the Counseling Compact. Assemblymember Hafen, welcome to Commerce and Labor. Welcome back, Mrs. Peters. To those new in the committee or just to the legislature, Assembly Member Sarah Peters used to be one of us. She will always be one of us. We are happy to see you. You guys may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Committee. It's wonderful to be here today. For the record, I am Gregory Hafen II, representing Assembly District 36, and I am the sponsor of Assembly Bill 163, which enters into the Counseling Compact. The idea for this legislation actually originated from the Southern Regional Behavioral Health Policy Board, which I think you all remember. I stated last week, week before, I don't know, it just seems like we've been here for 2 months now. I voted against the creation of this board. It has become one of my favorite boards to participate in, and that is where this idea for this bill came from. And what it will do is authorize the state to enter into the Interstate Compact for practice both in person and through telehealth by professional counselors who hold a valid, unrestricted home state license in a compact member state. The initiative aims to help enhance access to mental health services, streamline license processes, and maintain high standards of professional practice. So joining me today, as the chair stated, is former Assembly person Sarah Peters, and my intern Elijah, who, if I could just take a moment of personal privilege and congratulate him. He was just accepted into Boyd Law School today. And he is going to present his first bill. And so we'll go ahead and open up the slideshow. And I'll go ahead and turn it over to Assembly Member Peters, former Assembly Member Peters, to go ahead and give her statement.
So I have personal remarks. Do you want me to use
Yeah.
yours or mine?
No, use yours.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. It's lovely to be back here. I feel like I spent most of my time in this committee over the last 6 years, so I am happy to be back in support of this really important workforce development bill brought by one of our sister boards. I serve on the Washoe Regional Behavioral Health Policy Board, and this one comes from the Southern Board. I had the privilege of speaking in front of their board recently to talk about the bill introduction process and how to come and convince you all that these bills are important. So when Assemblyman Hafen asked if I could come and help support this bill, it felt very much in alignment with the work that I did in the legislature and my continued passion for Nevada and healthcare workforce in our state. I'm pleased to be co-presenting this bill and given my longstanding commitment to strengthening Nevada's behavioral health workforce. During my time in the legislature, I served as the chair of the Assembly Health and Human Services Committee, where we worked extensively on policies to expand access to care. I also had the opportunity to collaborate with the Washoe Regional Behavioral Health Policy Board, which has been instrumental in identifying solutions to address our state's mental health provider shortage. And this morning, I presented their BDR in the Senate, so I'm happy to be here for this bill in the Assembly. Nevada continues to rank among the lowest in the nation for mental health workforce availability, with only 15 licensed behavioral health providers per 10,000 residents in the state, well below the national average. Nearly every county in our state is designated as a mental health professional shortage area, and far too many Nevadans, particularly in rural and underserved communities, face significant barriers to care. The Counseling Compact is a workforce development solution. By allowing licensed professional counselors from other participating states to practice in Nevada without unnecessary licensure barriers, this compact helps us expand the behavioral health workforce by through qualified counselors from compact states being able to serve Nevadans immediately, alleviating critical shortages. It also improves access in rural underserved communities, with telehealth playing a vital role in mental health care. The compact allows out-of-state providers to reach Nevadans who might otherwise go without treatment. And finally, we're supporting military families and mobile professions. Many counselors, especially those in military families, face delays in relicensure when relocating. This compact removes those barriers, keeping professionals in the workforce. And finally, strengthening Nevada's economy. When mental health needs go unmet, we see increased emergency room visits, lost workplace productivity, and rising costs through state services. Expanding our provider network helps address all of these challenges. This compact is not a federal mandate. It is a state-led initiative that upholds high professional standards while modernizing licensure processes. More than a dozen states have already joined, recognizing the need to address behavioral health workforce shortages in a coordinated way. So I strongly urge the committee to support this bill and help Nevada take this important step towards ensuring that every resident has access to the care that they need. Thank you, and I think we have a summary and walkthrough.
Thank you, former Assemblywoman Peters. And Gregory Hafen for the second, for the record again. So just to add to what Mrs. Peters just stated, a lot of what this is going to do is help eliminate some of the redundancy when it comes to licensing, reduce the administrative burden on both the state and the applicant. But I also wanted to mention that the participating states still have the ability to maintain sovereignty over the practice and the scope of laws that each, in this case, the counselor would be required to do, and each of the professionals still have to abide by each of the laws that are under our statutes, that this would not supersede this. Some of the benefits that we would see would be improving access to professional counseling services, preserving strength of our licensure system, facilitating telehealth services by enabling residents to receive counseling remotely from qualified professionals across state lines, enhancing public safety through a shared interstate database of licensures and disciplinary information, allowing for rapid verification of license status, and improving licensure portability for professional licensed counselors, like the relocating military spouses. And I just want to add to the verification process. So currently, in my conversation with some of the counselors in this state, as well as the Marriage and Behavioral Health Board, the process can take 6 months for them to do the background check. The board is very efficient. They're able to get their portion done. It's trying to get the background check and everything else that goes along with it. And so by entering into the compact, from their perspective, it will cut down that process from the 6 months to just a matter of maybe a week or 2 weeks, which then helps get these professionals into the workforce, whether they're a military spouse or a transient member moving to the state of Nevada as a refugee from the fellow state of California, as we've seen a lot of take place recently. With your permission, Madam Chair, I'm going to turn it over to Elijah to go through the various sections of the bill, as well as I wanted to also put up the map for you guys to look at of all the states that are entered into the Interstate Compact currently. Correct me if I'm wrong, Elijah, there's 40 states that have entered into the Interstate Compact. There are 5 states, including the state of Nevada, that are in process of considering this. So almost all of the states across the country are either in the process of looking at this or have entered into this. So Elijah, go ahead and take it away. Please state your name, spell your name for the record.
Elijah Wion for the record, ELIJAH WION. And yeah, just to correct my assemblyman, so it's 37 states, including Washington, D.C. And so I would just like to provide a summary of the key provisions of AB 163. So Section 1 of the bill, it ratifies and enters into the Counseling Compact, and it just provides for the purpose of the compact, which is to facilitate interstate practice of licensed professional counseling with the goal of improving public access to professional counseling services. Section 2 establishes the definition of key terms as used throughout the compact. Section 3 establishes the duties of the compact's member states, which include licensing and regulating licensed professional counselors, requiring licensees to pass a nationally recognized exam, requiring licensees to have a 60-semester-hour master's degree in counseling or 60 semester hours of graduate coursework in relevant areas, participating fully in the Compact Commission's licensure data system, and conducting criminal background checks for candidates for an initial privilege to practice. In order to practice as a licensed professional counselor under the Compact, licensees must meet certain criteria as stated in Section 4. Section 5 creates an alternative pathway to licensure for privilege holders who change their primary state of residence between Compact member states. Section 6 allows active duty service members or their spouse to designate a home state where the individual has a current license in good standing. This state will then serve as the individual's home state for the duration of the service member's active duty. Section 7 establishes that the privilege to practice under the compact must include the provision of telehealth services to patients in remote states. Licensees providing telehealth services in a remote state must adhere to the laws and regulation, including the scope of practice of the remote state. Section 8 clarifies that only a practitioner's home state may take adverse actions against a home state license. The establishment of the Counseling Compact Commission is outlined in Section 9. Section 10 requires the sharing of licensure information by all compact states. A member state must submit a uniform data set to the data system on counselors to whom this compact is applicable as required by the rules of the Commission. And Section 11 addresses the rulemaking under the compact by the Commission. Section 12 ensures compliance with the compact by member states and provides procedures for oversight, dispute resolution, and enforcement. The compact took effect on the day of the enactment of the 10th state. Section 13 addresses the date of implementation of the compact, withdrawal by a member state, and amending the compact. Section 14 addresses construction and severability of the compact. And lastly, Section 15 reiterates that licensees must adhere to the laws and regulations, including the scope of practice of the state in which they are practicing. All rules and bylaws of the commission are binding upon member states. Further, in the event of a conflict between the law of the member state and the compact, the state law is superseded to the extent of the conflict.
Thank you. And thank you, Chair, and members of the committee. I did want to point you to the exhibits that are online and posted for the public. We do have over 100 mental health providers that are endorsing Nevada entering into the counseling compact, as well as a number of letters of support, including from the Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense. We've just had a lot of outreach of support. And so having said all of that, I do have a number of individuals that are either here or online to help us answer questions because I am not a mental health provider. So we have, and please, Madam Chair, if I may. Okay, thank you. Holly Kalfas, the attorney for the Counseling Compact Commission, Dr. Lynn Lindy, Chief of Professional Practice for the American Counseling Association, Dan Longston, Manager of the National Center for Interstate Compacts, the Council of State Governments, Jolie McNutt, the Executive Director for the Nevada State Board of Examiners for Marriage and Family Therapists and Clinical Professional Counselors, Annette Logan Parker, the founder, Chief Advocacy and Initiative Officer, the Cure for Kids Foundation, Dr. Kevin Austin Garner, the Chief Executive Officer for Concept to Reality, Kelly Mae Douglas, Pacific Southwest Region Liaison, Defense State Liaison, Office of the Assistant Secretary of Defense. Having said all of that, Madam Chair, Committee, we are here for any questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and thank you for bringing this bill forward. I think we can all agree that there's definitely a mental health crisis and shortage of counselors, and we need help desperately. Before I ask the committee members for questions, I just wanted to confirm again, 37 states are in the compact, correct?
Elijah Weon for the record. Yes,
Thank
that is
you.
correct, including Washington, D.C.
And 5 have filed some sort of legislation. Okay. And just one more thing. And I just wanted to confirm on page 17, section 10, when we are discussing the data system, I again wanted to confirm and put it on the record that a data system will be created that if there is any adverse action or for some reason the state gets pulled from the compact, we would always know, we would always have that information available. Is that correct?
Assemblyman Gregory Hafen II. Yes, Madam Chair, that is correct.
Thank you. I will, Vice Chair Howdigi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think my questions, I'm so glad someone from the compact's here because I think they'll probably want to answer the questions. In section 4, sub 2 of the bill, where it says in order to be a part of the compact, a licensee shall have a valid United States Social Security number or national practitioner identifier. I was just wondering about the national practitioner identifier, what that is. And I'm asking this because I think it's a great thing. I'm assuming it's for people who maybe are here with work visas. And so again, I think that's great because it would open up how many more counselors we have, right? And so I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly.
Are we supposed to have someone online?
I think they were online. Sorry, Gregory Hafen for the second for the record.
And they can always get the answer to me. Like it's not like, I think it's a good thing and I just want to make sure it is what I'm thinking it is, that it would be if someone comes here and has can get their license, this national license in practice if they were a trained counselor at home.
I will absolutely follow up with you.
Okay, and then this will
Gregory Hafer for the
probably
record.
need to be a follow-up too. So I know you had mentioned 37 states and that if you are a licensee and part of the compact, you can practice telehealth across state lines. And so do we happen to know, out of the 37 states, how many total licensees, like that would open up, that would give Nevada access to how many more counselors? If you guys could get that question, like of the 37 states, how many more counselors does that mean for Nevada? Because that means, you know, people can access telehealth services in these states. And then my last question again for them, oh, if I could, Madam Chair, a follow-up, sorry. Thank you, Madam Chair. And then again, just making sure I understand correctly, but under Section 8, the adverse actions against counselors, Section 1 says that the member state can take action on the licensee for the, I guess, the member license, and then Section 3 says that only the state can take action on the license in the home state. So that just means like if someone's practicing in Nevada, we can only take action saying they can't practice here in Nevada, but we only can regulate the license here, right? And then all their home license is regulated by their home state. Yes, I'm seeing a nod yes, so thank you. Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Who did you have on the line to answer questions?
I was under the impression that Dr. Austin Guerra was going to be joining us on the phone. However, he may have been pulled into, I hope not a mental health crisis, but I do know that he does practice, and so he does get called away sometimes.
Is it Asagera? Okay, let me see if he's on the line. Hold on one second. Dr. Asagera is on the line.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. This is Carl Stems with the Council of State Governments. I know it was mentioned with my colleagues Dan Longton and Holly Kaltis also being available. I'm here on behalf of CSG to help answer questions for the compact. Thank you.
We have a couple questions for you. Can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Chair, this is AVH. Just one moment, please. Dr. Asagera, please press *6 to unmute yourself and begin when ready.
Hello, again, this is Carl Stems with the Council of State Governments, CARLSIMS.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for letting me re-ask my questions. I had a question on Section 4, Sub 2, that reads, to exercise the privilege to practice, you must have a valid United States Social Security number or national practitioner identifier. I was just wondering, is the national practitioner identifier just a license number for maybe those who are here on work visas?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the intention of that section is where, Social Security might not be available to be provided for the purposes of identifying that practitioner, that the NPI will be available. And I know there might be different use cases for why someone has an NPI. That's not necessarily a Social Security number, but the intention is to provide a kind of a wider array of possibilities for someone to have a number that can be identified in the data system for the purposes of administering the compact.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And if I could ask my second question. Do you happen to know, I know there's currently 37 states who are members of the compact, how many counselors that represents?
Thank you for the question. I'm not sure how many within those states there are in total, but I believe as far as kind of look at a national level that there are around 400,000 counselors that are in the United States. So just kind of give you an indicator there. But as far as the number within those 37 states and plus DC, that's information that I could try to track down for the committee.
Thank you for answering my questions. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Committee members, any additional questions? I don't see any. So we will Yes?
And if I could just, Gregory Hayford for the record chair, to the majority leader's comments, we were just looking it up. The NPI number is like a tax ID number that you could use in lieu of a social security number. So it's not just visas, but it's just like your tax identification number. So in the event you don't want to put out your social security number, mine is 5, I'm just kidding, I'm not gonna go there. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll give you a few minutes before we start support testimony. We will begin hearing testimony in support to Assembly Bill 163. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in support? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. For the record, my name is Nick Schneider, that's SCHNEIDER, Director of Government Affairs for the Vegas Chamber. Wanted to quickly thank the bill sponsor for bringing this bill forward. We are in support of AB 163, as entering the counseling compact will provide an easier pathway to bring in practitioners, especially experienced practitioners, to be licensed and practiced within our state. As you know, mental health services are a very in-need industry here in the state, and this bill will help fill some of that talent shortage that we have. This bill also stands to benefit attracting other workers who may be relocating to the state who would have continuity of care throughout that relocation process. Thank you for your time.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. Leah Cartwright, LEA, CARTWRIGHT, here today on behalf of NAMI Nevada, the National Alliance on Mental Illness Nevada chapter. Ditto to everything my colleague just said. That was fantastic. We support anything that gets more mental health practitioners and more care into our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 163? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair Marzola. My name is Joelle McNutt, JoelleMcNutt. I'm the Executive Director for the State of Nevada Board of Examiners for Marriage and Family Therapists and Clinical Professional Counselors. If it is okay with you, Madam Chair, I do have a letter of support that the board wrote in support of the compact. Would it be okay to enter that into the record and read it?
Absolutely. You do have 2 minutes.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I will summarize. The State of Nevada Board of Examiners for Marriage and Family Therapists and Clinical Professional Counselors was created to regulate the practice of marriage and family therapy, clinical professional counseling, and it was declared that these professions profoundly impact public safety and welfare. And we are charged with protecting public interests. So the board has done work over the last several years to expedite licensing with the goal of providing increased access to mental health services across the state and positively contributing to development of our workforce. And we have expedited licensure by reciprocity, discounted fees for licensure by reciprocity. So the application fees for applicants from other states are cut in half. We do allow for the transfer of experience hours, supervised hours for interns, so they don't have to start over when they come to apply and be licensed in Nevada. We don't have an examination required for intern applicants. They can apply right out of graduate school, and then their licensing exam is required after licensing. And we have a more inclusive consideration of acceptable required education for intern applicants. So what that means is a lot of states require specialized programmatic accreditation. And in Nevada, we prefer that, but there's also consideration of other academic coursework for interns. So as you can see from the examples above, the regulations in Nevada for licensure for a marriage and family therapist marriage and family therapist interns, clinical professional counselors, and clinical professional counselor interns are structured to give an opportunity to individuals that are interested in pursuing licensure. And the board discussed the involvement of in the Counseling Compact at our meetings in June and August of 2024. And we received an outpour of positive comments and support for joining the compact.
Ma'am, can I have you wrap up your comments, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
You can
No
always
problem.
submit. You can always submit. You can finish. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you can, if you can also submit the letter of support.
Sure.
Perfect.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it is our hope that we support Assembly Bill 163 and enter into the compact, but it is an emphatic request of the board that we have a jurisprudence exam, which is allowable in the compact language, but it is not currently a part of our application requirements. So our support is that we do support it, but we would really like to see our regulations and statutes open to include a jurisprudence exam so that the people coming in to practice therapy in our state are aware of our state laws and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Chair Marzola, Assembly Committee members on Commerce and Labor. My name is Anahit Baghshetyan. For the record, that is ANAHIT BAGHSHETSYAN, and I'm a research assistant at Nevada Policy. My testimony here would echo all of the testimonies before me. However, it would also include some of the data that we have concluded by our research at Nevada Policy. So research conducted by us has highlighted some key issues that the mental health care industry in the state is facing. The main ones being the lack of professionals for mental health care, the increasing demand by the residents, and lastly, success stories from other states, which partially are due to interstate compacts, such as the one in the question today. Nevada has consistently ranked nationally among one of the worst states for mental health care. For contrast, in 2017, Nevada had 50.4 counselors per 100,000 residents, when the national average was 181. As of 2023, the state data has indicated that we have only 478 licensed clinical professional counselors, from which only 28 are based in rural or frontier counties. So counties such as Esmeralda, Eureka, Mineral, Lander, and many more have effectively 0 licensed clinical professionals. Despite that, the demand for their services still continues growing to this day. On the other hand, the licensure requirements for clinical counseling are very time-consuming and excessive. So to paint a picture, applicants must submit intern hours, and then they must also do a 2-year-long graduate degree program in a mental health care discipline. And upon application, they're also supposed to show proof of 3,000 hours of clinical supervised hours. So it could take anywhere from 2 to 3 years for someone to get a counseling license. Hence, the Counseling Compact is a timely and proven solution to this issue, because it would immediately expand our mental health care professional workforce and allow professionals from 37 states to practice, most importantly through telehealth, for counties that are rural and serve underserved communities. So given the overwhelming need, Nevada Policy would love to see you and the committee members to support AB 163 and elevate the mental health care access in the state. Thank you very much.
And thank you for your testimony. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas? I don't see anyone. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to testify in support of Assembly Bill 163, please press *9 now to join the queue.
Good afternoon. For the record, Valerie Haskin, VALERIEHASKIN. As the Rural Regional Behavioral Health Coordinator, I serve the Rural Regional Behavioral Health Policy Board. I'm here to speak on their behalf to note that the Rural Regional Behavioral Health Policy Board does support AB 163. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Michael Ryan, Michaelryan. I'm a longtime resident of Nevada and a Marine Corps veteran. AB 163 could help address Nevada's critical mental health workforce shortage, particularly in the rural areas. I strongly encourage you to vote yes on AB 163. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola, Vice Chair Howdy, and members of the committee. My name is Kelly May Douglas, KelliMay-Douglas, and I work for the Department of Defense within the Defense State Liaison Office. On behalf of Department of Defense and military families stationed in Nevada, I would like to express support for the policy changes addressed in AB 163, which would enter the state into the Interstate Counseling Compact. Professional licensure has been an enduring problem for military spouses. Military spouses are a cross-section of the American population, although a greater percentage of them are in licensed professions than their civilian counterparts, and they are significantly more mobile. The short duration of military assignments, coupled with lengthy relicensing processes, can discourage military spouses from seeking relicensure, causing them to quit an occupation or pause their career, or the service member to leave the military. State policies enacting interstate licensure compacts, such as the Counseling Compact, relieve many of the stressors of frequent military moves by enabling military spouses to transfer their licenses more quickly across state lines and obtain employment as soon as they relocate to a new state. The bottom line is that licensure compacts facilitate greater career sustainability for military spouses, improving their families' financial security and overall well-being. Finally, interstate licensure compacts benefit not only the military spouses, but also apply to all eligible professionals to include active duty service members, members of the reserve component, veterans, and civilians. By continuing to enact these beneficial policies, the state can expand the opportunity to increase its workforce available to serve Nevadans while supporting the nearly 26,000 service members and spouses stationed in the Silver State. In closing, the Department of Defense is very appreciative of Nevada's ongoing commitment and efforts to support members of the military and their families who sacrifice much in service to our country. We appreciate Minority Leader Haven's sponsorship of this measure, and thank you, Madam Chair and members of the committee, for affording me the opportunity to share our strong support for AB 163.
If you've just joined us and would like to provide support testimony for Assembly Bill 163, please press star 9 to join the queue.
Good afternoon, Chair and members of the committee. This is Dora Martinez representing the Nevada Disability Peer Action Coalition. We'd like to thank the sponsor, Mr. Hazen, and we ditto what's been said. And a good shout out to Ms. Assemblywoman Peters it's good to hear your voice, and thank you so much. Go Pack.
Chair, there are no additional callers to provide testimony and support at this time.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 163. Is there anyone here in Carson City? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 163, please press star 9 to join the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. We'll move to testimony in neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 163? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
To provide testimony in neutral for Assembly Bill 163, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers choosing to testify at this time.
Thank you. Assemblymember Hafen, would you like to give any closing remarks?
Thank you, Chair. I did just want to touch on the jurisprudence requirements. Those are in here, page 7, section 4A, sub 8, and then again referenced on page 9, section 5, B2C. So we do think that's been satisfied, and I just want to thank you. I think this is really important for the state of Nevada to get more mental health providers into the state, and so thank you, Chair. Thank you, Committee, for your time today.
Thank you for your presentation and being with us today. I will close the hearing on Assembly Bill 163. I will now open the hearing on Assembly Bill 196. This measure revises provisions governing psychology. Assemblymember Backus, welcome. You may begin when you're ready. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Marzola and Commerce and Labor Committee members. I'm Assemblywoman Shea Backus, SHEA-BACKUS, representing Assembly District 37. I am joined today by my intern, so I guess it's intern presentation day in Commerce and Labor. So my intern is Megan Cavallero, a junior at UNR. She's pursuing a double major in philosophy and psychology. And we also have Laura Arnold on Zoom. She is the executive director of the Nevada State Board of Psychological Examiners. We appreciate this opportunity to present Assembly Bill 196, which proposes revisions to the regulation of psychology in Nevada, a vital part of our modern healthcare, education, and policy. The request of the Nevada State Board of Psychological Examiners to modify Chapter 641 of the Nevada Revised Statute was initially brought to me by our former lobbyist, Nina Laxalt. With her passing and coincidentally having an intern who is pursuing studies in psychology, I have had Ms. Cavallero work on this bill. She will do most of the presentation today, but Ms. Arnold and myself are here to elaborate or answer any questions that this committee may have. So at this time, I will turn it over to Ms. Cavallero.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Megan Cavallero for the record, and I'm super excited to present this bill. I've been working on it. So I will walk you through the purpose of the bill and then walk through each section. So the demand for psychological services, as we just heard, so it's great that we're going right after, has never been higher, and more effort has been put into protecting and regulating mental health services than ever before. And these services provide crucial answers and resources to thousands of Nevadans. And an area of psychology that's really important and has a profound impact on the field is psychological testing, where assessment and diagnosis takes place. And licensing, oversight, and ethical standards are essential to psychological testing to ensure that practitioners are qualified, competent, and held accountable. So expanding the ability to administer psychological tests to include trained psychometrists, as AB 196 proposes, could help make sure more people get access to the services they need. Currently, there are laws governing who can perform these tests. Unlicensed individuals may perform certain psychological testing under the direct supervision and periodic observation of a licensed psychologist. AB 196 proposes to give these unlicensed administrators the title of psychometrist. And definitionally, psychometrist means a medical professional who is trained in administering and scoring psychological testing and tests. And this bill also gives the power to the Board of Psychology to create regulations governing the requirements for who can be called a psychometrist. This would prevent unqualified individuals from using the term and limit the spread of misinformation, as well as give trained and qualified individuals a measure of formal authority. So this would expand access to psychological testing, high-in-demand services that many families struggle to get quick access to. And I will now walk you through the sections of the bill. So subsection 1 of section 1 allows the board to adopt regulations authorizing licensed psychologists to allow an unlicensed person to perform certain psychological tests under direct supervision. Subsection 2 of the section 1 allows those who can perform the psychological tests as described in subsection 1 to use the word psychometrist in connection with the administration of those tests. And changing this language exempts the term psychometrist from the prohibitions in NRS 641440 in response to issues that are created by Nevada's narrow definition of psychometrist. In context of those who provide the psychological testing and assistance permitted by the NAC 641-168 and better aligns with how that term is used nationwide. And Section 2 of the bill establishes a limitation period on when complaints can be filed against a psychologist. The timeline to bring a complaint against alleging grounds for disciplinary action would be 3 years from when the event giving rise to the complaint occurred. Section 3 merely makes conforming changes. And lastly, NRS 641-2265 will be repealed. And this repeal is so that business entities no longer have to register with the Board of Psychology. And the reason for this is the board regards it as unnecessary, and given that other state agencies already register business already, they regard it as redundant and unnecessary, and they have to field complaints that lead to a lot of office time. And in closing, I would like to thank Chair Marzola and the members of this committee for hearing this bill. I ask for your support of Assembly Bill 196, and with that, I will turn it over to Ms. Arnold, should she have anything to say.
Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and committee members. For the record, my name is Laura Arnold, Laura-Arnold, Executive Director for the Nevada Board of Psychological Examiners. I do not have anything to add to the presentation, but I'm happy to answer any questions, so thank you.
And thank you so much, Shay Backus, Assemblywoman for District 31. I just wanted to add, we did submit a conceptual amendment just for the purpose of reiterating that psychometrist, the title would not be forced to be used, but we've been exchanging communications with legal, so we've learned our conceptual amendment is kind of like moot because the language already in the bill allows it not to be mandatory. With that, we stand ready for questions.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation. We will start with Assemblymember Miller.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your presentation on this bill. Very nice job. With this, my question is if I could just get a little more clarity around the idea. You did state, my original question was, the bill states that they would be able to conduct the testing, and I was curious about then who disseminates that information, or does the actual evaluation of the testing or diagnostic, and then relays those results or findings. But you did say that they would score it. So does this mean this individual would then be able to score and make like a diagnosis, or would the score still be under the review of the actual, okay, you're nodding your head, so you know where I'm going with this question? Can you tell me what happens? So a person, because again, conducting a test is different than actually evaluating, and even if I score it, what happens with that score then? Am I still under the direction of the psychologist that picks up the score from there and then makes the diagnosis or the recommendations? Or am I, as the psychometrist, the person that then says, with the patient or the client, here is your score, and this is what we're going to do? I'm just trying to figure out their actual capacity to do that and what type of supervision or review would be in place for them.
Thank you, Chair Miller. Shay Backus, Assembly District 37 for the record, through Chair Marzola. I would
You can go direct.
Thank you so much. I want to kick it up to Laura Arnold, because a lot of this also is premised on anticipated regulatory changes that the board anticipates. So we don't kind of mess that up. We'd really like Laura to make sure we are answering your inquiry correctly regarding the scope of work and what they foresee in putting in the regulations.
Thank you. For the record, Laura Arnold is Executive Director for the Nevada Board of Psychological Examiners. I just want to make sure I am not muted. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you, Laura. Please proceed.
Okay. So I just want to clarify, the board has an adopted regulation that that governs psychological testing, and it's that as Megan had indicated, that is NAC 641.168. And there's a specific subsection in that regulation that addresses the psychological testing that individuals do, that we want to allow them to use the term psychometrist, because that term is used nationwide for these individuals. These are individuals who are unlicensed, but do this. They perform the testing, but they do it under the supervision of the psychologist who is responsible for the diagnosis and all of those things. So there is a regulation. This is just allowing them to use the term psychometrist, because currently under NRS 641.440 subsection 4, they would be prohibited from using that because it's currently in Nevada reserved only for someone who is a licensed psychologist.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you, Chair.
Committee members, any additional questions? Assemblymember Anderson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. My question comes actually from page 2, section 1, subsection 1, the periodic observations, and that's basically line 7. I'm just wondering what is meant by periodic. Is that has to do with, is that ever going to be prescribed in the regulations, or is that based upon the discussions between the different individuals involved?
Thank you, Assemblymember Anderson. Shay Backus for the record. I will kick that up to Ms. Arnold to elaborate.
Thank you for the question. Laura Arnold for the record, Executive Director for the Nevada Board of Psychological Examiners, by and through Chair Marzola to the Assembly member. Thank you for that question. I may need to have you repeat it. I just pulled up the bill. And if you wouldn't mind, you said page 2.
Yes, it's page 2, line 7. It's basically section 1, subsection 1, the word periodic observations. And if that's going to be defined in the regulations.
Thank you for that clarification.
And so I'm wondering if
Thank
the
you for that
word.
clarification.
Okay.
Go ahead. Okay, Laura Arnold for the record. So this first section, like I just said, the board already has an adopted regulation that governs the testing. So I'm not, this provision, we didn't write this. This is what was drafted. And so I'm assuming this just gives the board the authority to draft additional or other regulations that govern psychological testing. But I'm not sure I'm answering your question. If you could just clarify that.
This is Assemblymember Anderson. Totally makes sense. Thank you, Chair.
So, if you may, Assemblymember Anderson, Shay Backus, Assemblymember from District 37. I think, the language seems pretty clear, but when you're looking at the work that the psychometrist is going to be doing, it's going to be under that of a licensed psychologist. It may not be 100% observed because the psychometrist may be monitoring testing when the psychiatrist may not be there, psychologist may not be there. And so periodic, I think it's not consistent, rather like frequently, however you want to define periodic, but not consistent.
Thank you. I just for my understanding, so a psychometrist under the supervision, correct, can do these testings. What were they able to do before, if anything? Am I making sense?
Thank you, Chair, for your question. Shay Backus, Assembly Member for District 37. I think what's happening is we already have individuals performing, is what Ms. Arnold was explaining. The problem was because the statutory language was void of the use of psychometrists, that she was elaborating in response to Assembly Member Miller's inquiries. The whole purpose of having this was so they could provide this title to these individuals, and so that other people couldn't use this terminology as a psychometrist for something else or inappropriately. And if I'm wrong, Ms. Arnold, or please feel free to elaborate.
Thank you for the question. Laura Arnold, Executive Director for the Nevada Board of Psychological Examiners, through Chair Marzullo to the Assembly Member, or I'm sorry, to you, Chair Marzullo. Yeah, this is just clarifying that the term psychometrist is not limited to only those who are licensed psychologists. Across the nation, other people who perform testing under the supervision of psychologists are allowed to be called psychometrists. Only in Nevada, they're not allowed to be, or else they'll be in trouble for representing themselves as psychologists when they are not. This is just allowing them to use that term, the term psychometrist. And this request came from a couple of licensees who have these individuals working for them and are not allowed to call them psychometrists, where they are called that everywhere else in the country.
So these individuals already are trained to perform these tests, correct? I see.
Laura Arnold, for the record, that is correct. And the limitations of their, or I should say the description of what they do is provided in the regulatory provision that governs psychological testing. And again, that's NAC 641.168. And in particular to this term, it's subsection 1B.
And they are, sorry, last question. I'm just trying to understand the bill. And they're allowed to perform these tests, but they are not diagnosing these patients, correct? They perform these tests, and then they pass it over to someone that is licensed. Is that correct?
Laura Arnold, for the record, that's correct.
Thank you. Assemblymember Cole?
I generally think that my question has already been answered, and I'm just wondering if some of the confusion that we've got going back and forth here with the NAC, and this is already happening, is that possible to add into the Legislative Council Bureau's digest that there's an NAC on point here, and we're just trying to clarify the name concept?
Thank you, Assemblymember Cole. Shay Backus, Assembly Member for District 37. I'm going to send this back up to Ms. Arnold because there is purpose for why we had to bring this bill to clarify it. And if I recall correctly, and I want her to explain, was some challenges with cleaning up that language.
Laura Arnold, for the record, Executive Director for the Nevada Psychology Board. Could you please repeat that question? I just want to make sure I've got it clear.
Basically, all I'm just asking is whether or not LCB can change the Legislative Council's digest on page 1 to make a reference to the NAC that you're referencing, because I think that clears up some of our questions.
You know what? I'll take it back. Assemblymember Shay Backus, for the record, to Assemblymember Cole. Actually, I mean, what happens is, just so you know, the Legislative Council Digest is kind of just a preface to a bill, so Assembly Bill 196. When this actually, if and hopefully we get your support, it passes and makes it out of both houses, gets signed by the governor and becomes bill, then it becomes, there's statutory language that goes into a list of statutes, or I forget the term, but it removes the digest doesn't follow this once it becomes a law.
Assemblymember, we're going to have legal chime in really quickly.
Perfect. Awesome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sam Kwas, Committee Counsel. The NAC 641.168, in fact, is referenced in the digest currently.
Thank you. Assemblymember Carter? Assemblymember Torres Fawcett.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you so much for the presentation. It's great to see you back in what I think was your favorite committee in Commerce and Labor. I had a question. Do you know, and I looked it up, so I found that there's, I guess, quite a bit of training that goes into individuals that work in this profession too. So it's not just it's not something that people are trained in when they're in these offices. I'm wondering, is there like a licensure process, or is the expectation that they'll establish like regulations for am I saying it right? Psychometrists in the state of Nevada to be licensed? Is there going to be like any regulatory process for that, or is it simply going to say that they could have it, and like then would it be at the discretion of the mental health providers to determine, the psychologists to determine if they have the appropriate certification?
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Torres Fawcett Shea Backus. For the record, now that I love we're talking about the digest, NAC 641.168 has on here that existing regulations authorize a licensed psychologist to authorize personnel who are not licensed by the board to perform certain psychological testing under the direct supervision and periodic observation to the licensed psychologist. So there's already guidelines and regulations, and it's not like a licensure, is my understanding. But if Ms. Arnold wants to correct me, yeah, she's agreeing.
Committee members, any additional questions? No. Assemblymember Yurick.
Thank you, Chair, and I wanted to also commend you on a job very well done on presenting this bill. I think you did a fabulous job. My question, if you'll forgive my ignorance, comes in actually Section 2, subsection 2, when it's basically putting a timeline on when complaints can be made. And my ignorance is, what sort of complaints are actually brought to the board on these types of individuals that do this testing, and what sort of discipline is ultimately administered?
Thank you so much, Assemblymember Yurick. I'm also thanking you for Megan. But I want to send that up to Executive Director Arnold to chime in on that. But I want to let the committee know, like, when you see other boards that come before you, such as like the Nevada State Contractors Board, it is not uncommon for there to be a statute of limitations for the complaints to be filed. So this wasn't like anything weird. But I want to go up to Executive Director Arnold to answer your question on the types of complaints that you may be seeing that would be subject to NRS 641.250 subsection 1.
Thank you, Laura Arnold, for the record, Executive Director for the Nevada Board of Psychological Examiners. By and through Chair Mazzola to the Assembly member. This request, thank you, Chair Mazzola. This is an amendment to a separate provision of the NRS Chapter 641, and that concerns complaints brought before the board about psychologists, because the board only licenses psychologists. So this is separate from the psychometrist issue. That was just a clarification of the term. We've had enough instances of people filing complaints with the board against psychologists for something that happened 5 or 7 or 10 years ago. And as we go through and update our policies, and as we reviewed our disciplinary policy, it occurred to legal counsel, board counsel, the board investigators, and me that we could probably request and put a statute of limitation or limitations period for people to bring complaints against psychologists, so that we don't have psychologists defending actions or complaints that were brought for something that happened a long time ago.
Any additional questions, committee members? I don't see any. You are phenomenal today. I love all these rising stars. We will move to testimony in support to Assembly Bill 196. Is there anyone here in Carson City? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Good afternoon, Chair Marzola and members of the committee. My name is Spencer Flanders for the record, SPENCR, FLANDERS, with Tri Strategies, and I'm here on behalf of the Nevada Psychological Association in support of Assembly Bill 196. We are facing a mental health care crisis, and it's more important than ever that we provide timely and effective care. Assembly Bill 196 allows licensed psychologists to delegate specific tasks to trained assistants known as psychometrists under this supervision. This makes it possible to serve more patients without sacrificing the quality of care. This bill ensures testing remains accurate and reliable while giving patients quicker access to necessary services. This allows assistants to use their title of psychometrists, providing clarity for their role and maintaining transparency and trust. Additionally, Assembly Bill 196 sets a reasonable timeline for filing complaints, protecting both patients and providers. Assembly Bill 196 increases access to care with high professional standards, and we urge you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in support? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support to Assembly Bill 196? I don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in support for Assembly Bill 196, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are currently no callers wishing to testify in support.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in opposition to Assembly Bill 196. Is there anyone here in Carson City? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 196? I don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in opposition to Assembly Bill 196, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are no callers currently at this time to testify in opposition.
Thank you. We will move to testimony in neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City that wishes to testify? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Vice Chair Howdigi and members of the committee. For the record, Mindy Elliott, M-E-N-D-Y, E-L-L-I-O-T-T, and from Flint Judici Government Affairs, today representing the State of Nevada Board of Examiners for Marriage and Family Therapists and Clinical Professional Counselors. We really didn't have a dog in, I mean, we like the bill, it's a good bill, but there is a proposed amendment by Dr. Jim Jobin which removes testing for licensed marriage and family therapists, which is an issue that we would request an opportunity for the board to review and provide guidance. I'm happy to work with the bill sponsor if there's consideration for the proposed amendment. We just thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. You may begin when you're ready.
Hello, Tara Raines for the record, T-A-R-A-R-A-I-N-E-S. I'm here as Deputy Director of the Children's Advocacy Alliance. I'm also a licensed psychologist here in Nevada and former Associate Professor and Director of Clinical Training at the Child Family School Psychology Program at the University of Denver. While we overwhelmingly support this bill as enrolled, we see the value of psychometrists in helping reduce the burden of our child mental health workforce shortage. However, we are not happy and don't agree with the amendment that was submitted, lifting the restrictions on LCPCs and LMFTs giving assessments. At the same time, we have, sorry, I apologize, folks. Assessments are complex tools that require specialized training, and despite what is stated in the amendment, the fields being considered for expansion do not have these courses. They do not have courses dedicated in psychometrics, statistics, or assessment as part of their core training. In fact, while in this hearing, I reviewed the core courses at the two programs here in our state, and none of those were listed as core competencies or core courses. Allowing individuals without this expertise to administer and interpret tests increases the risk of misdiagnosis, inappropriate interventions, and long-term harm to children. We want to also be clear and acknowledge the historical misuse of assessments, particularly their disproportionate impact on Black and brown children. Despite advancements, many standardized assessments continue to show racial discrepancies in their performance among different racial groups, which can contribute to misdiagnosis, inappropriate educational placements, and limited opportunities for these historically marginalized students. If psychometrists are to become a part of Nevada's behavioral health system, we must ensure that their training and scope of practice prioritize equity and cultural responsiveness. We're eager to work with Assemblymember Bacchus on this, and we hope to participate in the working groups that the Board of Psychological Examiners will have to make sure that there's high quality in training, appropriate supervision, and safeguards against unintended harm. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in neutral to Assembly Bill 196? Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Assembly Bill 196, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, there are currently no callers wishing to testify in neutral.
Thank you. Assembly member, would you like to give any closing remarks?
Thank you so much, Chair Marzola and the committee. I was. Sorry, that's not my closing remarks for today. I just wanted to come back up here because I was not aware that there was this proposed amendment on Nellis pertaining to marriage and family therapists. We will take a look at that. But as for our proposed amendment that I was a little confused by, obviously that has become moot. So we'll take a look at it and see if it had the relevance and address it if we need to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for addressing that issue. I will now close the hearing on Assembly Bill 196. I will now open up for public comment. Please address your remarks to issues that fall within the jurisdiction of this committee. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes per person. Public comment may be submitted in writing to the committee up to 24 hours after the hearing. Please remember to state and spell your name for the record. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to give public comment? I don't see anyone. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to give public comment? I don't see anyone walking up. Broadcast, is there anyone on the line?
Thank you, Chair. If you would like to provide public comment, please press star 9 to take your place in the queue. Chair, our public lines are open and working. However, there are no callers choosing to provide public comment at this time.
Committee members, are there any comments? This concludes our meeting for today. Our next meeting will be on Friday, February 28th at the call of the chair. This meeting's adjourned.